All right, let's get right into it. In the middle of Bangladesh's busy cities, there's a huge yet quiet transformation happening in the way people live. And no, it's not about giant new skyscrapers, but really about what's going on inside them. We're talking about a massive shift from renting empty apartments to moving into ready-to-live, fully furnished spaces.
You know, for the longest time, if you even mentioned a furnished apartment, a very specific image probably popped into your head, right? A super high-end, expensive place, pretty much just for expatriates or maybe NGO workers on short-term contracts. But is that really still the case?
Well, there's your answer. It absolutely used to be that way. But today, that whole idea is completely outdated. The real story of the furnished apartment market isn't about foreigners anymore. It's a story about the changing needs and priorities of urban Bangladeshis themselves.
So to really understand just how far things have come, we've got to go back to the beginning. Let's call it the expat bubble era.
So before 2020, this whole market was incredibly specific. The demand? It was almost entirely driven by a pretty small international community. And because of that, pretty much all of these apartments were clustered in places like Gulshan and Banani. The supply wasn't coming from big professional companies. No way. It was mostly individual landlords just converting a spare unit they had. This meant prices were high, often even quoted in dollars, and the management was super informal. I mean, think about it. You'd literally be finding your next home in a Facebook group. It was a small, kind of fragmented world.
And then, just like that, everything changed. Like it did for so many other things, the housing market got hit by a massive accelerator, the COVID-19 pandemic. And this wasn't just some gentle nudge, this was a fundamental shock to the entire system.
Okay, what's so fascinating here is how clearly this slide shows that massive pivot. Take a look at that first period, 2016 to 2020. You see expatriate demand, individual units, it's a clear niche market. Now just jump down to the next period, 2020 to 2025. Whoa, the demand drivers have completely flipped to things like pandemic mobility and remote work. The supply starts to get more organized and the market enters this whole new transitional phase. This wasn't some slow burn evolution. It was a revolution and it was kickstarted by a global crisis.
And this right here is the absolute key. All of a sudden, you had remote workers needing temporary setups, people moving back from abroad unexpectedly, and frontline workers needing flexible housing right near their jobs. The old model, the 12-month lease with huge upfront security deposits, it just didn't work anymore. The need for flexible, ready-to-go housing just exploded almost overnight.
So this sudden need for flexibility basically paved the way for the next phase, which is pretty much where we are right now. The market is shifting out of that small niche and moving firmly into the mainstream, and it's all being driven by a completely new kind of renter.
I mean, just look at this list. We are so far beyond just talking about foreigners now. We're talking about local urban professionals who need convenience, companies leasing apartments for their employees, students moving to the city for university, and even medical tourists. The whole idea of a furnished apartment has been totally democratized. It's become a practical solution for a much, much broader slice of the population.
So where is this all headed? Well, the next decade is pointing towards a future where housing becomes less of a product you own or rent and much more of a service you simply experience.
And this slide illustrates that journey perfectly. Back in 2016, the biggest worry was just finding an available unit. Then the pandemic hits in 2020, and suddenly flexibility is the #1 priority. Now, looking ahead to 2030, as the market gets more mature, the focus is going to shift to the overall experience. Better service, better amenities. And by 2036, we're looking at this idea of seamless living, where your home is a fully integrated, tech-enabled service. Pretty cool.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second and look at the powerful currents that are pushing this entire market forward. What are the real fundamental forces at play here? This quote absolutely nails it. People in urban Bangladesh have gotten used to convenience on demand. You can get a ride, a meal, or your groceries with just a few taps on your phone. So the expectation now is, why can't my home be that easy too? This plug-and-play mindset is a huge driver. People value their time more than ever and just want to avoid the massive hassle of setting up a new apartment from scratch.
But, the road ahead isn't perfectly paved. On the one hand, you've got these incredibly powerful drivers, shifting lifestyles, that convenience mindset, and a growing trust in digital platforms. But on the other side, the market is facing some very real challenges. There's a serious lack of regulation, a lot of inconsistency in what furnished actually means from one place to the next, and real issues with pricing transparency. The companies that are going to win in this space are the ones that figure out how to solve these problems.
And that leaves us with a final, really thought-provoking question. As our lives get more mobile and our cities get more crowded, are we witnessing a fundamental shift in our entire relationship with the concept of a home? A move away from the permanence of ownership and towards the flexibility of a subscription? Definitely something to think about.